everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Everything. You hear me? How y'all doing tonight? We are going to be going over this crazy document that has been causing quite a stir today. I know most of you guys have already seen this. Most of you guys have watched a couple other people that went over it earlier. Now, of course, my initial reaction, it was exactly what it was. That's what I put it out, my initial reaction. You don't know until you dig into the codes exactly what is happening, as most of you guys have already pointed out, but that's the whole point. We go off of reaction and then we come back in and we dig deeper to see what's actually going on. So what I'm going to do, yes, which is insane to me, but I'm still on the fence about what it means, even after going over the code myself and reading it, which is what we're going to actually do first. We're still going to sit here and read the entire document because that's what we do. Unless it's all like crazy repetitive stuff. Oh, it's here. It's here. It just really desperately needs for me to do it again, which is probably going to happen this weekend. So we're going to go through. Let me go ahead and get this a little bit smaller. I'm going to show y'all the paragraph like I showed you guys in the video, but then I'm going to open the rule and we're going to compare and see what it says because I'm still slightly confused. I am honest. Like I haven't read a lot of what other people saw. I just know the conversation and what's being pointed out. I know that apparently Lawyer, went over it and Interview Room read the whole thing. Now, I don't know if everyone is interpreting the way that Peter read it the same way because I'm getting different information from people saying that they watched it over on Peter's channel. So that's why I need to go through it myself here. And I'm probably going to go and see what he has to say so I can try to interpret myself what he's. Some people are telling me that the way that he's reading it with his actual lawyer brain, it's as if it was involuntary. Some people are saying Judge just washed his hands of it and that was it. So I don't know. That's why I need to determine what's going on myself. You see what I mean? Because they're getting their information from the same channel, but they're coming to me with different views. That's why you have to look at it. Okay. FBI ran away. Now the judge runs away. Did the FBI run away, or are they just not wanting to take any responsibility for how crackhead this case went? Yeah, see, that's the part I'm confused about. That's what I think. I think that for all the stuff, because I think November 7th is the next hearing that we have, if I can remember off the top of my head the scheduling order correctly. That's funny. That mustache is odd. I think I like his face better without the mustache. I saw his mustache today. I was like, oh, I guess I wasn't used to the mustache. He did give you the same impression. So y'all are getting the impression that this was an involuntary handoff. We'll read a little bit and then maybe I'll do a poll and see how many people get the interpretation that it was an involuntary situation or judge actually making the decision for himself. Oh, thank you. That's very sweet, C-Tires. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. So let's read. I'm going to read the paragraph. And then we're going to go to the rule. And then we'll try to figure it out as we're reading the full document. Okay. The conclusion paragraph reads, Kohberger's motion to change venue is granted pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 21A and 21B. Consistent with the language of Idaho Criminal Rule 21C 2B, this court orders a transfer of venue without specifying the new place of venue and refers the case to the administrative director of the courts for assignment by the Supreme Court to a court of proper venue in another judicial district and assignment to a specific judge to preside in the criminal proceeding. So when I originally interpreted that without going to the rule, still right now, even knowing that the rule and what it says, my brain still reads this as just for trial. That's what I appreciate that, C-Tires. I really do. Thank you very much. That's how I read it. That's how my brain initially reads it is this is about the trial. This isn't about moving the case. This whole argument, the base of the argument, the same thing we had to do with the change of venue survey hearings and all of what the argument was about it being unfair because of the media. It didn't have anything to do with anything else. It was the taintedness and the unfairness and the animosity and the energy of the area and how unfair it would be for the trial to be there. So the base of this was the change of venue for the trial itself, not the whole case. So when I'm reading this, to me, it's the Supreme Court is going to decide which county and which judge. That's it. So whenever you see this, again, I still see it as Judge is still going to be sitting in Latah County when we have all of these other hearings, because we still have motions coming up. We still have things to discuss and deadlines. Right. So that's why I don't understand why, like, a lot of people see, okay, you're not sure either. See, I don't know. So I'm trying to figure it out. See, some people are agreeing with me, but some people are still kind of confused. I appreciate that. That's sweet. Thank you. But that's why I'm kind of confused, because I don't see this as him stepping down. ICS hearing. You're going to have to specify, Tonka. You have to specify. My brain is drawing a blank. But that's how I interpret this. Okay, so now we're going to go to the rule. Okay. Oh, I'm over here talking. I think I have the stupid screen up, y'all. Hold on a minute. There it goes. I'm glad I looked before I switched to the rule, because at least y'all know what I'm showing you now. Okay. Oh, that's not how I want it. How do I want it? That's not it either. I probably should have checked this beforehand. I'm horrible at this. Where to go? Nope, too little. You know what? This might have to work for now. Let me see. Edit. At least a little bit. Ooh, might be too much. I want y'all to be able to read it, but I don't know if it's going to let me do this right. Especially since the website's going to be a bit different. Let's see what this looks like. Doc review. Okay, so that was the paragraph that I read without showing you the screen. Okay, there we go. Right here. So now we see the rule. We see the rule. Idaho Criminal Rule 21A. Okay. This is the Idaho 21 situation. Okay, so 21A by itself. Okay. Right here, 21A. So we're going to go back right here. 21A for prejudice. On motion of either party, the court must transfer the proceeding to another county if the court is satisfied that a fair and impartial trial cannot be had in the county where the case is pending. So just right off the bat, that's already a grant. Just off number one, that is already check mark. Yes, approved. He's not going to get a fair trial here, point blank. Okay. So now we go back. I don't know if y'all can see the 21B. Okay, you can. Okay, so then you go to 21B. Okay. Go back. For convenience. For convenience. On motion of the defendant, the court may transfer the proceeding to another county for the convenience of parties and witnesses and in the interest of justice. Now, if you ask the Goncalveses, like we've known prior, and just like we know now that they've put a statement out, and there's even, I think, a clip of Shannon Gray talking to News Nation. I was going to go over it and watch it, but then the actual statement dropped, or maybe the document dropped. So, one of the two. I think the document dropped. So I didn't get the chance to go over it, but I'm pretty sure whatever he said is pretty much the same as what was in the statement. I read the statement to you guys earlier in a shorter video earlier this afternoon. That's not convenient for them. And I know that they had a big issue with it moving. And again, I understand their part of it, but everything that they have as an inconvenience is still out here in the free world and going to be paid for by the taxpayers. Their hotel stays, their gas, their mileage, their food, anything, because it's outside of a certain like mileage range, they're going to be accommodated. There's going to be accommodations for state employees and for witnesses and for the families, the very close direct families. That's how it works. So I know that it's going to suck a little bit for them to be a little bit out of their comfort level, but, neither is, Bryan Kohberger isn't in his comfort level either. Okay. I'm sorry to like care about that, but until we know exactly what's going on here, he's innocent. He's innocent. And I find it interesting that the courts found it important enough, I guess, to apparently add some of Steve Goncalves' word vomit in the courtroom on the 29th, according to somebody who was actually there. And that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. And I understand they lost their children. I don't even know if the Kernodles or the Chapins or Maddie's family even care, honestly, about where this thing is being held. The Goncalveses are the only ones talking. Bryan, his entire life has been inconvenienced on this. If he's truly guilty, then that's a horrible situation. I mean, truly innocent. That's a horrible situation. But if he's not guilty, he's going through all of this, and all you have to do is get a little free food and vacation and have to deal with listening to a bunch of idiots. And then you have lawsuits that you're going to be able to handle and more movie rights that you're going to be able to do. So I don't really know why they're complaining all that much. I don't truly understand it. And somebody made a good point earlier when it comes to the school, when it comes to Green. I don't know if there's a lawsuit there, guys. That's why I don't know if this is maybe why the Goncalveses are kind of out here so much trying to like milk more about what's going on. And I know how some people will take up for them. Okay. And I understand that they are parents with probably ginormous gashes in their hearts. Okay. For the fact that they lost Kaylee. I'm not stupid. I understand that. But the fact that they're throwing such a big fit about something like this, whenever this isn't even the big problem, they're out here talking about movie deals and trying to go after the school, while also complaining about moving for the venue. How can they go after the school if this is an off-campus house? That was like a big point people keep talking about. Whenever you're off campus, your safety is your own responsibility. Like all the legality, all the liability is completely off of the school. So is the only way the school really viable for anything is if the school is somehow involved in the crime? Because if there's not some sort of university involvement, what kind of money could they possibly be thinking they're going to get from the university? And if that's their mindset, then I don't understand why they are so opposing things that could make light, the truth come out. You know what I mean? Like if we actually get this into an area where it's not so saturated by all of this animosity, maybe people will start speaking. Do you think that maybe a change of venue and maybe some of the pressure coming off of Latah County might actually get people to talk? I kind of wondered about that because right now, all of that chaos and all of that anger is like right there in that one spot. But see, the whole thing about Moscow being entangled with it is that they're all passersby. They're getting their degree and they're going on with their life and they're probably not going to look back. See, the school's not liable. That's why I'm trying to figure out like what the whole motive is here for the craziness of the Goncalveses. They should want it to be exactly right there. They should want a fair trial and whoever's found guilty, justice be served no matter who it is, which is what I've said, be it Bryan or not. They're not proving it to me. They've yet to prove it to me. And this is a problem right here. What if there's no conviction? The only thing that they might be able to do is maybe do something about them getting rid of the house. But the Goncalveses had all the power in the world to file something like an injunction in the court for the house, and they chose not to. Instead, didn't Steve and his son go off to like some other country on vacation while all of that was going on? So they can go on vacation out of country, but they couldn't pay their lawyer to file a piece of paper. I don't really quite get that. I don't get that. So maybe that's the only thing they could see the school being liable for. But when it comes to the crime itself, they can't sit here and be so dead set on it being Bryan, but then still think that the school is liable for something. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But so the convenience part, is it convenient to anybody other than Ann Taylor maybe? Because she's dealing with another death case in another county and maybe it's going to be moving closer for her. Bill Thompson probably couldn't care either way because he's old and this is probably going to be his last hurrah before he's out the door. So the only one that really matters in this one is honestly in the interest of justice, which goes right back into 21A for prejudice. Now, this is where we're going to get into the one that people are like confused about because this is the one that I'm confused about. Idaho Criminal Rule 21C 2B. Okay. So we're going to go down here. 21C, proceedings on transfer. Okay. And then 2B. So 2 is transfer to a different judicial district. If the proceeding is transferred to a court of proper venue in a different judicial district, a new presiding judge is assigned as follows. And then it goes to, what was it, B? Okay. This is, I think, where people are having a misconception. And I think, guys, in the comment, in the chat, let me know if this is where the confusion is coming from. Right here. If the original judge does not desire to continue the assignment over the case, the judge must enter an order transferring the case without specifying the new place of venue, and then refer the case to the administrative director of the courts for assignment by the Supreme Court to a court of proper venue in another judicial district, and assignment of a specific judge to preside in the criminal proceedings. It's this very beginning part. If the original judge does not desire to continue the assignment over the case, but does that mean for all of it? Well, see, I heard something today that I'm going to repeat right now, but I'm going to say that I do not know if it's true until I do some research. Someone told me today that Shannon Gray's bar license has been suspended twice in the past. And that could be, if that's true, then that could be a reason why he took the Goncalves' case, even though they don't really have a case, just so he could sort of like be in the limelight. That could be a big possibility, because he really does not seem to be doing a good job at all. At all. He's not. I mean, unless this whole thing that just happened on News Nation, with it just being Shannon Gray, is how this is going to be from now on, because Steve's face was plastered as technical evidence for needing this whole thing to be moved at court hearing. Okay. Maybe he's going to start talking for them like a spokesperson, but he has not advised them or made them shut up at all. Now, no, he can't make them. No, he can't make them. But they're paying him good money, I'm sure. And they're not even caring to listen to what he has to say. I don't know why they're paying him either. Lawyer said he used that statement to bow out. But what is he bowing out of? Just the trial, like I'm interpreting it? Or is everyone like, I don't know. See, who told the Goncalves that he is stepping down and that this is the last decision he'll ever make? Because that's not how I read this. I read this as just for trial. And that he's going to be making decisions on 11/7 and all them other dates. I mean, we can easily bring it up. As a matter of fact, let me go and do that right now. Before we get started reading the actual document. So that we can pull up the scheduling order. Because there's quite a few things on here, guys. That's going to need a judge's signature in Latah County. Where is it at? I just saw it not long ago and looked over it. Here it is, right here. Wow. It never takes this long to open a document. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. There it goes. Okay. So we have the jury dates. Okay. Okay, so they did the September 5th deadline for them to challenge a death penalty. Then responses have to be filed on October 10th. Replies to that on October 24th. And then all of the motions for that stuff is going to be on November 7th. And then another one is going to be held on February 6th. Like, there's still stuff happening. March 27th of 25. There's still stuff in Latah. So I don't know. I don't understand how they get the impression that this is the last decision that he's ever going to make in this case, because that's not the case. And I think that's why a lot of people are kind of like grabbing onto it without us really knowing for sure, because the Goncalveses have said it, and they probably figure the Goncalveses have said it because they have inside information from Shannon, but I don't think that they're getting inside info. It seems to me he is going to be holding on to everything that he needs to hold on to in this case until trial. And trial is whenever everything else is going to change. I don't see it being any other way other than that. I just do not. So now we're going to go through and read this whole document, because I want to know how much he actually paid attention. Now, I know there shouldn't be as many mistakes in this one because we have a different clerk of court. So hopefully we can read it and it's not completely everywhere and gets me all screwed up like it did last time, because reading all those hundred thousands of million of pages. Oh, I just removed myself. I got to pay attention to these buttons. Reading all those pages and having all of those mistakes really was tripping me up. So hopefully this lady knows how to do her job a little bit better. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and read this. Let me move it over some, or let me go down so I can make sure y'all can see it. Y'all can see the whole thing. Okay. Let's go. This is written from the judge, not by, but from the judge. This is his whole decision. On January 30th of 2024, defendant Bryan C. Kohberger filed a motion for change of venue pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 21, Idaho Code 19-1801, Articles 1, Section 167, 13, and 18 of the Idaho Constitution, and the 5th, 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. On February 8th of 2024, the state filed an objection to Kohberger's motion. The hearing on Kohberger's motion was originally scheduled for June 7th of 2024. Thereafter, the parties stipulated to continuing the hearing on August 29th of 24. On July 22nd of 24, Kohberger filed a memorandum in support of motion for change of venue with various exhibits attached. Lots of exhibits attached. The state filed an additional objection on August 12th of 24, and Kohberger filed a reply on August 19th of 24 with additional exhibits. A change of venue hearing was held on August 29th of 24. Kohberger was present and represented by Ann Taylor, Eliza Massoth, and Jay Logsden. The state was represented by William Thompson Jr. and Ashley Jennings, Latah County Prosecutor's Office, and Ingrid Beatty and Jeff Nye, Office of the Attorney General. Now, I know there was a few people there. I have two people that have commented on two different videos of mine. I've mentioned them. I've mentioned them before, but I thought they were the same person, and it turns out they're not the same person. The yellow shirt girl, you could actually see in the hearing. I noticed her yellow shirt. I think I mentioned it in chat. She posted something about it, and then there was another lady that was there. It was the other lady that told me about Steve's stuff being like shown, like all of the clips and stuff. And she got into more specifics. So when it gets to like the social media aspects and stuff like that in this document, I'll probably switch over and try to pull those videos up, and I'll show you all those comments so that we can go over what she said, because she had some interesting details. And I've asked the lady in the yellow shirt to go look at the other comment from the other lady to see what she had to say about them both being there at the same time, so I can get like her input on what the other lady said that she saw. I know that probably didn't make a lot of sense, but in my head, it sounded just fine. Okay. A change of venue hearing. We read that part. Okay. At the hearing, defendant presented expert testimony from James Todd Murphy, Dr. Amani El Alayali, Dr. Brian Edelman, and Dr. Veronica DeHeer. The state did not call any witnesses at all. They barely even questioned them. They barely even came out and asked any questions. They barely spoke. which that's kind of how it's been since Santa's big, huge thing, you know. It made sense? Okay, good. Yeah. I don't remember their usernames because it's a mixture of like numbers and names, so that's the only really way that I can put it. Okay. The court has spent many months carefully considering the legal and logistical concerns with a trial of this length and magnitude, carefully reading each submission, listening to each expert, and evaluating each party's position. Based upon the totality of the factors, defendant's motion for change of venue is granted. Background. On November 13th of 22, 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Maddie Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were found deceased in Goncalves, Mogen, and Kernodle's off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho. The cause of death for each was ruled as a homicide. As news of the tragedy broke, media outlets from around the country descended upon Moscow. As law enforcement investigated, news stations, newspapers, and social media were flooded with stories and speculation about the homicides. Throughout the course of the investigation, the Moscow Police Department, in partnership with the University of Idaho, which I don't understand why, in the first place, we already had questions for that, but I don't understand why they continued to be a part of it. Even after, like, okay, we might have our questions about the situation, right? Like, we might have our questions. But once they had a guy that had nothing to do with the University of Idaho, why the hell was the University of Idaho still involved then? Their involvement in this is just hella sketchy. Like, if I'm looking at anybody cross-eyed, it's them. Not cross-eyed. Is it cross-eyed? Side-eyed? Whatever. It's the university. I don't like it. I don't like it. I just don't like it. The Latell County Prosecutor's Office and the Idaho State Police held press briefings to answer questions and reassure the public. Appropriately, the information released was limited to protect the integrity of the ongoing investigation. Sure. On December 30th of 2022, Kohberger was arrested and charged with 4 counts of murder in the first degree and 1 count of burglary. Again, media outlets descended upon Moscow, and the news coverage quickly focused on Kohberger. That same day, an order governing courthouse and courtroom conduct was entered to help alleviate any potentially prejudicial photography, audio, or video recordings and interviews within the courthouse. The conduct order has remained in place throughout the proceedings. Because of the extensive media coverage from the outset of the homicides, a non-dissemination order was also quickly put into place by stipulation of the parties on January 3rd, 2023, to help protect Kohberger's right to a fair trial by an impartial jury. The non-dissemination order, as amended, has remained in place throughout the duration of the case. Speaking of, hasn't Ann Taylor stood up in court and said that the gag order has caused damage in this case? Am I remembering that correctly? Now that I'm looking at the chat, am I remembering that? I feel like I've read it, but I just can't remember if I read it from them. But I know that the defense has stated several times that the gag order is a big problem. She did. Okay, so how come she hasn't filed to remove it? Like, isn't there a motion? Isn't there something that she could file? Like, I know that she's filed a very specific motion to have the gag order removed, because I don't remember reading that document. I know that she's complained a lot about the gag order, but just like the Goncalveses complaining about the house, I don't remember anything being... She has? Okay, well, I'm going to have to go look again because I don't remember. I don't remember. So we gonna look. What do they call it? A dissemination? Disseminate? I'm just gonna type in order. Oh gosh, that's way too many. I'm gonna spell this wrong. There it is. Okay, dissemination. I'm going to look. Is this his case? Okay. Because the only ones that I remember being filed, guys, were from the Goncalveses. Because I don't remember getting my hopes up that the gag order was going to get removed. That's the media's filing. Okay, so let's go back to the top because we're going to look. I know, but it would still have a title on it. Sealed files still have titles. That's what I mean. Like, we have titles on everything. So here's the original non-dissemination order. And then the amended one. Is this the one from the Goncalveses? No, this is how they wanted it. Yeah, it is. Counsel for the victim's family moves the court. Yeah, this is the one from the family. The objection for the one from the family. Okay, maybe. Okay, is this it right here? No, this is for the press. This is for the press too. See? Objection for the press one. Is this another one for the press? Yeah. Revised amended non-dissemination order. Open. Yeah, this is just the one doing more clarification stuff. I think this is the one where we found out that the family wasn't gagged. Like, we had verification for show that the family wasn't gagged, that the gag order literally stopped at Shannon Gray. That's it, guys. So, like I don't see anything. Yeah, thinking nothing formally legally filed. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been wondering. Like, I know that she files stuff. I know she files stuff, and I know that they have a sealing order for everything, but they still have titles. They still have titles. She did originally want it. They both originally wanted it, and I guess they thought that it was like a good idea, but I mean, it's been forever now. I feel like that they've been complaining about the gag order, but I have not seen them file anything officially. So yeah, it was probably something that they just talked about. And I don't even think that it was official talk about. I think their whole problem is that the change of venue survey apparently like went against the gag order is what the judge apparently originally was like really thinking of. Was that all this information is going to be out there and we've tried so hard to keep it under gag. But I mean, it's media info. So, I mean, April of 2024. I mean, April of 2024, what though? Because there's not a document. Was there a hearing in April? Because, like, we have stuff that was filed. It's augmenting the record. Alibi stuff. Yeah, but I mean, I mean, she said it in court several times that it was bad for the case. But they've never officially filed anything to remove it. Which is just kind of shocking to me for as long as it's been, because I mean, it could be denied, which it probably would get denied, but at least it's filed. And I don't see anything filed with a thing. I mean, I feel like it would have a title. She said it a lot. Now I wonder if they're going to try to. Is it too late? Is it too late to file to have it removed? So that would be 03 then. Oh wait, you're talking about bringing up the detectives to the stand? The wannabe detectives? The wannabe detectives to the stand? Yeah. I know she said it. She said it a bunch. I don't know. Okay. Let's continue. In an additional effort to help protect Kohberger's right to a fair trial, on November 17th of 2023, this court entered an order removing cameras from the courtroom. Since that time, the proceedings have been streamed via the court's YouTube channel, which in theory allows the public access to the proceedings while minimizing prejudicial photographs and videos focusing solely on Kohberger and his every move. You do realize that now this puts the trial being on camera in jeopardy, because we don't know where it's going to go. And in order for us to know if it's already like built in with the cameras and the mics and stuff, we're not going to know how they're going to want to handle it. We don't know if the judge is going to allow the cameras. There's a lot of stuff that could change with this. A lot. Like, we see already what's going on with Delphi. Most of you do see already what's going on with Delphi. It's not because the interview room had a whole bunch of people thinking that he was going to have the Goncalveses on, but then they didn't, as far as I could tell. I sort of went in to see if maybe they were on and went to the community tab, and it was just the statement that I read you guys hours and hours ago. And DTS always lies. They'll say they have live interviews and all kind of stuff, and then it's pre-recorded and it's all boo-boo. So no, it's the same statement that everybody got whenever Brian Inton got it and everybody talked about it 12 hours ago. That's all that is. They full of poop. Hey, Angel. Hey, Anita. Hey, anybody who's been in here. I've been trying to read all this stuff, so I know I've missed a whole bunch of people. But hi. Thank you for being here. I know you've probably heard it all 1,000 times, but no, you're going to hear it now because I haven't yet. This is my first time reading the full thing through because I had to work and then I had to do laundry and then I had to cook and all the things. So, yeah. But yeah, it's just a statement. I mean, they'll probably end up doing something on TV. Maybe, they go on News Nation or whatever. If they don't, it'll be because of what happened in court. It'll be because Steve's face was plastered up as part of the reasons for this thing needing to be moved. So that's probably why we won't see Steve. If we don't see Steve, that's probably why we don't see Steve. This moved again. I don't want like that. I need y'all to be able to actually see the document. Oh boy. I don't know why this thing did that. Okay. Okay, but yeah, that was the one thing I thought of whenever I skimmed through right here is like, okay, yeah, that's not going to happen now. We're not going to have a live stream YouTube channel that we can all stream from, because I mean, this judge could come in here and be a tyrant. No cameras. You're not allowed to live stream. You're not allowed to rebroadcast. Like, all of those stipulations could land on this trial, because now it's all up in the air. All up in the air. Despite efforts by the parties and the court to protect the jury pool from being inundated with information that is potentially prejudicial and false, extensive media coverage by mainstream media sources such as newspapers, radio stations, and television news outlets has continued throughout the state and nationally. Additionally, and perhaps more challenging, is the ongoing spread of prejudicial information, rumors, and patently false theories of the case on social media outlets such as Facebook, podcasts, and blogs. There have also been numerous television shows and documentaries produced about the homicides, and at least one book has already been published. One. If my location wouldn't pop up, I'd pop open my Amazon right now and show y'all about 34. books that have been published. You mean one. Go to Amazon any day of the week. There's over 30. Come on now. No. There's over 30. One book. Okay. The parties agree the case has generated extensive coverage by the media, internet sleuths, and others trying to capitalize on the tragedy, but disagree on how the court should attempt to remedy the issue to ensure Kohberger is tried by a fair, impartial jury. In sum, Kohberger argues that venue must be changed from Latell County to a location with a larger population that is geographically distant from where the homicides occurred. And that is sort of basically what the defense is claiming. That's why they want Ada County, because it's bigger. I don't believe that that's the case. I think they should go to Bannock Canyon. The state wanted Nez Perce. That's why I was arguing with people on Twitter, because the Goncalveses are like, oh, Bryan gets what he wants. The state wanted this thing to go to Nez Perce. The state didn't want to leave it in Latell County either. And you know why? Mikey, some of you guys know Mikey. He mods on a bunch of different channels. He sends me stuff, articles, and podcasts and stuff sometimes that we talk about. He sent me one of a girl. She's a journalist, and I guess she spent like 8 months down there. It's that same Boots on the Ground podcast on, I think, Spotify. There's a little fruit fly in here. It needs to go away. I think it was on Spotify. Anyway, she was there, and she had heard like a bunch of the bar people saying what they were going to do to Bryan if he got out and all kind of crazy stuff. And she was like, it was very awakening, the kind of stuff she was saying, because it's kind of like how I figured it was, especially at the bars, right? Like she heard a lot of stuff at the bars. You know how, bolsterous people get whenever they're drinking and just like talking shit, But they also talked about the Christ Church. And that's something that I brought up. Is that the church basically like brainwashes their entire whatever to not care at all what the cops have to say. So a huge portion of the possible jury pool is a group of people that are not going to care about evidence or listen to the cops or follow instructions, all because of the mindset of their religious atmosphere. So the state wanted it gone too. The state did. The state didn't want it there. So while the Goncalveses are acting like, oh, Bryan's is getting his way all the time. No, the state wanted it gone. The defense wanted it gone. I mean, it was a smart move. It was. We all wanted it moved. But in the end, both sides wanted this thing to happen. In the end, both sides wanted it. Yeah, I don't believe there are things I question. I have come out here and been very, very open with my questions when it comes to the whole him going from his apartment and back apparently from 9 to 9:30, hanging around for 10 to 12 minutes, going back, okay, and it being around the exact same time that we heard neighbors saying that the front door was wide open. There's questions I have, okay? There are questions. I can talk away touch DNA all day long. We've discussed it so many times on here. How many times have y'all gone and taken showers right after we've got done talking about it because of all the DNA on you that I remind you of? Okay? We talk about it a lot. I can talk that away all day long. That's all they have. That's all they have. They have something that could have been transferred from literally anywhere. Literally. Anywhere. And it doesn't even have to have been transferred anytime recently. We learned from going through some of these cases, DNA's lasted for years. One case, the guy his DNA had to have been in that one spot at least 2 years before it ended up transferring to a girl's body. In another case, 6 years down the line, they were still able to get a viable DNA sample from underneath a victim's fingernails in a case and solve it. It happens all the time. Happens all the time. That DNA don't mean shit to me. Especially after we found out how many times they had their car wrong, and not just the year, but then it turns out they were looking for, what was it? A Nissan? To begin with? They got nothing. And it's sad because this is true. Even if he's innocent, his life is ruined. I mean, it could be one way or another. he gets out and ends up, he's the one with the movie deal. He's the one who was the one that was wrongfully accused and was found innocent and able to go off. I mean, his life might never be the same. I don't know. I would like to hope that there's like brighter sides to those kinds of things, but I've also seen so many cases and read about so many cases of people that were wrongfully accused. They didn't get any compensation. They didn't get any help to get their lives back together. They were basically just like, okay, well, sorry, and just thrown out, and they had to figure it out. So I don't know. I think maybe with his career path, his life wouldn't be too ruined. He could definitely use this as maybe like a bigger stepping stone, but it will always be with him forever. It will be there forever. This is a good question. Oral statement. What means the most to me are the 3 other DNA profiles that couldn't be tested. Why didn't they run IgG on them if possible? But that's the thing. I don't think they couldn't be tested. I just think they didn't test them. And that's what I want to know. And I think it really was all that they were in the middle of doing whatever they were doing. And then suddenly they passed off the information to the feds, and they just got an answer back first, maybe before they got to anything else. I don't think they couldn't be. There's definitely ways. Even if a DNA sample is tainted, even if there's multiple DNAs in one DNA sample, there's ways to separate all them things. Yeah, there's ways to separate it. Can't the defense demand those other DNA profiles get tested? Yeah, they can. They sure the hell can. I'm wondering if they have, and we just don't know, but hell yeah, they can. They can't retest the DNA sheath, the sheath DNA, because it's gone. The profile they used was gone. The sample was completely degraded, and what they claimed they were able to do, but with the amount that they claim that they have, there's no way in hell they were able to get viable testing done. Not with the standard. There's just no way. There's just no way. Let's see. Okay. Oh, there's that word. Let's see if I screw it up this time. The state asserts that a larger jury pool, extensive juror questions, and voir dire are sufficient remedies that will result in a fair and impartial jury in Latah County. In addition to the issue of juror prejudice resulting from extensive coverage of the homicides and Kohberger by the media and others, the smaller population of Latah County, the defense also asserts that trials should be moved outside of Latah County for the convenience of the parties and witnesses and in the interest of justice. That says the defense said that. The defense also asserts that. I mean, again, we don't really know what the Goncalves, no, that's all we know is the Goncalves is. Retract, that's all we know. We don't know what the Chapins, the Kernodles, or Maddie's family, the Mogens, we don't know how they feel about it. Now, the Chapins apparently aren't even going to go. So whatever, they're apparently out the door. But I'm pretty positive Maddie's family is going to be there. Xana's family is going to be there. We haven't heard them complain. And I mean, if they are, they're not publicly complaining. Because again, at this point, can we really be sure that the Goncalves are speaking for the other 2 families? Can we really be positive that's still how this is? Maybe in the very beginning that's how it was, but I don't really know if that's really what's happening anymore. I don't think that's what's happening. I think the Goncalves are roguing it out here. And the Chapins are off doing their own thing. And Maddie's family and Xana's family are kind of just in limbo waiting to see what's going to happen in court, keep it to themselves. Yeah, I don't think we can. I don't think we can. Okay. Evidence. Now, don't get too happy. This isn't case evidence. This is just evidence for what's happening right now for the change. As noted above, at the change of venue hearing, Kohberger presented expert testimony from James Todd Murphy, Dr. Amani L. Alili, Dr. Brian Edelman, and Dr. Veronica DeHeer. Additionally, Kohberger submitted several exhibits depicting news stories, news clips, and social media posts for this court's review. The state did not call any witnesses or submit any evidence. Maybe I should show it to y'all right here. No, I'll get through the evidence part first, and then I'll go back and pull the videos up and show you guys what those two ladies, what they said about being there. Okay. The court will summarize the key takeaways from the testimony offered by each of Kohberger's experts. Number 1, James Todd Murphy. James Todd Murphy is the president of TrueScope North America. TrueScope provides media monitoring services that offer information to help understand the impact of media coverage on a particular community. TrueScope looks only at mainstream media sources such as newspapers and news stations. Of the mainstream media coverage in Idaho of this case, 36% of that coverage has been within Latah County. This would include media like Moscow Pullman Daily News, Lewiston Tribune, and the television news stations out of Spokane, Washington. Kohberger requests this case be moved to Ada County, which has 34% of the mainstream media coverage in Idaho. While the media coverage percentages are similar between the two counties, I said that, they're like maybe 1 to 2% off, which is wild. Ada County has a much larger population than Latah County, and they're not as closely affected. That was my statement. According to Murphy, this means that the media coverage in Ada County is much more diluted, while Latah County is saturated with such coverage. Yeah. Stated differently, media coverage in Latah County offered twice as many opportunities to be seen per person than in Ada County. The higher volume of coverage in Latah County, coupled with a smaller pool of eligible jurors, means people in Latah County had twice as many chances to be exposed to this case versus those residing in Ada County. And then Exhibit C, attached to defendant's memorandum in support of change of venue, is where that came from. When looking at the volume of media coverage over time, Ada County had a higher volume of media coverage from February 2023 to June of 2023. However, since that time, Latah County has consistently had the higher volume of media coverage, with the two counties being similar overall in their current coverage of the case. All of this taken together means the probability of a Latah County resident being exposed to media coverage of the case is much higher than the probability of an Ada County resident being exposed to media coverage of this case. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Okay. Number 2, Dr. Amani L. Alili. Dr. Amani L. Alili is a social psychologist and social cognition researcher. As part of her research, Dr. L. Alili evaluates how publicity about a case can shape potential jurors' attitudes. Dr. L. Alili has found that more publicity a case generates, the more likely potential jurors are to dislike the defendant and view the defendant as guilty. This is true. Dr. Ella Liley believes that the publicity Latah County residents have been exposed to makes them biased against Kohberger for several reasons, even if that bias is subconscious. Very true. First, Latah County authority figures have publicly spoken about Kohberger's guilt in absolute terms. That's true too. The former Moscow Police Department Chief James Fry, who was the police chief during the investigation into the homicides, publicly declared he had no doubts that the right guy had been arrested for the crimes. He said that. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising if he did say that. He has to be confident in his own work, right? After Kohberger's arrest, the University of Idaho president Scott Green stated publicly that the university community once again felt safe. I still can't find that thing guy. The thing, what was it? Bill Thompson? The one I was looking for Bryan about the drug connection. That just reminded me of that, because it's the same setting interview, sort of like the same person, where Bill Thompson was claiming if he had kids going to that school, he would feel safe about them going back. It was that same interview set. I still can't find that. Yeah, Fry guy. The guy. Yeah. No, but I can't find that interview piece still to this day. I still cannot find it. I cannot find it. But this reminded me of that, because Bill Thompson did say that very early on, and I always found it interesting, and we did a video about it whenever it happened, that he came out very early on and said, oh yeah, I would have felt safe for my kid going back to school. What did you know, bro? What did you know then? With no evidence whatsoever to go off of anything for another, month and a half? What the hell did you know then to be able to make that statement? Or were you just making that statement to save face? I feel like a lot of it was to save face. Definitely to save face. Okay. After Kohberger's arrest, the University of Idaho president Scott Green, yeah, we read that part already. Generally speaking, individuals are more likely to trust and believe authority figures, so these statements by Latah County authority figures are particularly impactful to Latah County residents. Give me 1 second. Okay, let's see where we were. Okay. Second, because Latah County is a small, close-knit community, community members feel a sense of loyalty to community views and fellow community members. For example, Latah County jurors may feel an inner clash or conflict if they felt the state had not proven Kohberger's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, because they may feel voting not guilty would cause community outrage or once again cause fear within the community. Thus, the inner clash may cause jurors to vote guilty even when they believe there is reasonable doubt as to guilt. I mean, it's happened. It's happened. This inner clash may be even greater when personal connections within Latah County are considered, i.e., my neighbor who is a police officer may be upset with me if I don't vote guilty. And that's true. That's something they have to consider because it's real life. It's real life. This one's written by the judge, though, Anita. I mean, I think he might be helping some with some of the ones that we've seen, but the state had somebody writing differently too for a minute there, because they all kind of like shook us. What was it? The very last one from the state? We were like, who wrote this? This doesn't sound familiar. I think there's something in the air because my throat feels like really itchy. We ain't been around nobody, unless somebody where we were just washing clothes was maybe sick, but it don't kick in that quick, I don't think. So my throat's just a little bit itchy. That's why I'm drinking so much water. I think he is. I think he's putting some sort of information in him. He's not dumb. He's not dumb by any means. I'm pretty sure he is. See, but this is the thing. I was about to make this statement right here. Small, interconnected, but are they? Because that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, a bunch of them are college kids who are literally just passing through. It's a very, very temporary stop on life's journey for them. So I don't know. I don't know how much of them are really like interconnected. Like, obviously there's families and stuff like every other town. Most of them are just passing through. Most of them are just travelers. You know what I mean? Travelers, life's travelers. So I don't know. I've always been on the fence about that one. Okay. Similarly, given the small size of Latah County residents had a much more emotional experience surrounding the homicides and therefore are much more invested in the case. For example, when Kohberger was arrested, Latah County residents who had been fearful experienced a sense of relief, which equates to believing Kohberger is guilty. No, it doesn't. Actually. I mean, it doesn't all the way. Okay. I understand what he's saying here, but this is like normal. Like, okay, anytime there's some crazy crap going on and you get the news that a-hole got handcuffs on, you instantly feel a sigh of relief. You instantly feel better if it's something that you're invested in. That can change. That can change. I understand his point right here, but it can change. But instantly I can see what he's meaning. But that would have been for both resident and college students alike and people of the surrounding areas. And honestly, just anybody that was really watching the case, because this thing was worldwide before we ever even knew who Bryan was. Worldwide. I get it. But that's a temporary natural reaction. Doesn't mean it sticks. Doesn't mean it stays. Next, the extensive negative publicity surrounding Kohberger leads potential jurors to think of Kohberger negatively. I believe that one. Stated differently, before Kohberger's arrest, if one was to hear the name Bryan Kohberger, the reaction would have been neutral. Now, after Kohberger's name and pictures have been associated with terms like murderer, evil, killer, and stalker, when individuals hear that name, there is a negative association. This impact is greater in Latell County because of the saturation of the extensive media coverage. I've mentioned this. The one girl who's come out and claimed that Bryan Kohberger had a crush on her in grade school or whatever, and the mom was like, yeah, he was weird. He was always telling her that she was beautiful and he was staring at her. And I'm like, so it was weird that he had a crush on your kid? Like, what is that telling me about that situation? Anyway, besides the point. If Bryan Kohberger's name would be in the news right now for doing something fantastic, okay, if he suddenly became famous for something in a good way, in a positive way, if people wanted his autograph and wanted to take pictures with him and he was out in the free world, she'd be out here being like, oh my God, he had the biggest crush on me. Yeah, I was like his first girlfriend. Instead, she's out here acting like he was some sort of crazy, psycho, weird child. And the mom was like, oh my God, he was so weird because he liked my daughter and he would just look at her. Told her she was pretty all the time. It was so strange. I've mentioned that. If it would have been good news, those stories would be different. But because it's bad news, it's a different perception because of what his name is associated with. Before this entire thing, nobody really had anything bad to say about Bryan, apparently, or else he wouldn't have been where he was. And that Cassie girl that we listened to the interview, tell me that her voice did not smile when she talked about Bryan and his khaki pants. Okay. Says a lot. It says a whole lot. So this is accurate. Totally accurate. I love this kind of psychology stuff because it's true. Finally, given all of this, Dr. L. O'Leary opined that it was arguably impossible for residents of Latell County to be asked to serve as impartial jurors because they are biased against Kohberger, even if they do not want to be biased and think they are biased. This is particularly difficult for the defense to overcome because when humans process information while experiencing emotions like fear and anger, it is difficult to change the initial opinions formed even in the face of contradictory evidence. You heard that? We should probably repeat that sentence. Keep the family in mind. And yes, I know there's more than one, so you know who I'm talking about. Ready? This is particularly difficult for the defense to overcome when humans process information while experiencing emotions like fear and anger. It is difficult to change the initial opinions formed even in the face of contradictory evidence. I really hope the Goncalveses paid attention to that statement. Instead, we as humans pay greater attention to information that backs up our initial preconceived ideas and opinions. See, I was holding a pitchfork for Bryan Kohberger when they arrested his ass, okay? It wasn't until the PCA came out and things weren't making any more sense that I started asking questions. I flipped my opinion because new evidence came out. New things came to light. Other things got debunked and facts started becoming clear. On top of things that were not facts started to finally be proven to not be facts and fade away. I feel like the Goncalveses are trying to hold on to everything from the very beginning before the questions really started. Before everything that they originally thought slowly started falling apart. And for some reason, they don't want to ride the wave of reality. They want to keep it in the back end for some reason. And again, I don't understand the concept. I don't know how their brains are working, but they're working together this way as a unit. Now, Christy Goncalves did make a statement whenever she did the interview with Brian Hinton in front of the Memorial Garden that it feels like she's waking up a little bit more every day. So it'll be actually really wonderful to see if that's true, because maybe we'll see a behavioral change. Maybe she'll start opening her eyes a little. Maybe she'll read documents. Maybe she'll go through evidence. Maybe she'll do what we do. I mean, I got my feelings, girl. I got my feelings. But I try to base those feelings on the facts as much as possible. As much as possible. It's just like earlier today, when I first read that document, I didn't read it as if he was stepping down. I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. That's not what this is claiming. But I get where I could be wrong, and I will openly admit I get where I could be wrong. I just need the court to clarify what the hell is actually happening, because I'm confused. I'm so confused. So many guilters are stuck on the DNA, I know. Yeah. And I mean, I understand that, because not a lot of people will dig deeper into what it means. They hear DNA and they instantly think stuff like blood, and there's nothing you could do. Nothing you could say. Most people don't know that there's tears. Most people don't understand that. I mean, we learn it in school, but as we get older, whatever our brains do not have to constantly look at and think about. I mean, come on. Do you remember what you learned back in history class about a bunch of anything? Do you remember half of what you learned in science if you're not out here doing it on a daily basis? No, your brain only keeps intact what you absolutely need. So a lot of people don't really remember all that kind of stuff. So they hear DNA and they think it's just like the TV shows. Oh, they got them. Yeah. Just how it is. Just how it is these days. Hopefully some eyes open, and change their views on stuff. Because it is wild. It is wild. Taken all together, Dr. L. O'Leary stated that, in her expert opinion, the best way to ensure Kohberger is tried by a fair and impartial jury is to find jurors who are both physically and psychologically removed from Latah County. Now, number 3 from Dr. Bryan Edelman. Dr. Bryan Edelman is a social psychologist who works as a trial consultant for jury selection and pre-trial research. In this case, the defense hired Dr. Edelman to conduct a survey of Latah County residents, Ada County residents, Canyon County residents, and Bannock County residents to determine if a change of venue motion was warranted. The key findings from the survey show that case recognition is high throughout Idaho. 98% of survey respondents in Latah County recognized the case. 93% of survey respondents in Ada County recognized the case. 90% of survey respondents in Canyon County recognized the case, and 84% in Bannock. In Latah County, of the 98% of respondents that recognized the case, 67% reported they believe Kohberger is guilty. 24.7% reported they believe Kohberger is definitely guilty. Similarly, in Ada County, 68% of respondents who recognize the case believe Kohberger is guilty. 22% reported believing Kohberger is definitely guilty. 69% of respondents in Canyon County believe he is guilty, with 23% saying definitely, and 76% in Bannock, with 19 stating definitely. Hold on. Bryan, what? You heard what I said earlier about your interview? I can't find it, sir. So if you know if one of your other channels that you watch has a copy of it, if they recorded it, send it to me. Tell them to send it to me, because I can't find it. And people in my comments are saying I was looking, couldn't find it either. The Bill Thompson interview. Help me, broski, because I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to put it all together for you, and I'm stuck because I can't find the interview. I got what they are trying to pretend like they were talking about now, but the original stuff is all gone. So you and your spinal cord, just letting you know. I've been looking for it. Okay. Now it says here, in Latah County, 51% of respondents reported Kohberger would have a difficult time convincing them he's not guilty. The percentage of respondents who reported that Kohberger would have a difficult time convincing them he is not guilty was actually higher in all the other counties surveyed. 56% in Ada, 57% in Canyon, and 53% in Bannock. In Latah County, 51.5% of respondents who recognized the case felt that the death penalty was the appropriate punishment, and 23.5% felt that life without parole would be appropriate. I'm sorry, but if you ever take 4 lives, life without parole is not enough. It's just not. In Ada County, 49% reported they believed death was the appropriate sentence. 57% of respondents in Canyon County reported they believed death was the appropriate sentence, and 53% in Banning. Okay. I understand. That the death penalty part is important because of the kind of case this is, but this also sort of does feel like the way that they want the trial trifurcated. This is a death penalty case. I don't care. I don't care. This is a death penalty case. It's who gets it is the problem. I wish they did this based on IQ point. Can they just not go and do like a county-wide IQ test and see whichever county has the highest IQ gets it? Oh, bro, I just said it. Yeah, voting. All of it. No. No, because buys 2, tries 3. Definitely not the same thing as potato. What you mean? What you mean? No, it should be. It should be completely IQ all the way. You've got to have a cognitively great thinking brain to be able to be on a jury. You should have to take emotional too. Yeah. You should have to take an IQ test and pass a psychological evaluation to be on a jury. That's what you should have to do. Forget the rest of it. Do you lie? Is your brain working correctly? And are you crazy? That's all that matters. Okay, I don't know if we really need to read all these percentages because we went over this. I don't know how many times, and then we listened to 7 hours straight of it. So I don't really know if we need to read all of the percentages. 29% of people followed it very closely in Latah, 58 in Ada, 51 in Canyon, and 46 in Bannock. 39% of survey respondents in Latah County indicated they experienced higher levels of stress, anxiety, or fear during the search for the person responsible. Well, that's because they were in the local area and they didn't know if they were next. I mean, that's understandable and normal. This is in contrast with the 17% of Ada County respondents. So that's because it's farther away from the incident. That's natural and normal. Okay. Finally, Dr. Edelman considered the population sizes of the counties surveyed, with Ada County having 406,000, Canyon with 184,000, Bannock with 66,000, and Latah with 32. Dang. I forgot how tiny Latah was. Dang. Okay. Based on the information obtained from the surveys, Dr. Edelman opined that case recognition and presumption of guilt is and will continue to be high throughout Idaho, given the extensive media coverage the case has generated. In his opinion, population size matters. For example, if roughly 50% of Latah County residents presume Kohberger is guilty, that leaves approximately 15,000 Latah County residents who do not hold this presumption. Of those, not all are eligible to serve as a juror. In contrast, if 50% of Ada County residents presume Kohberger is guilty, that leaves over 200,000 residents who do not hold such a presumption. Thus, Ada County has a much larger pool of non-biased potential jurors. Even more important to Dr. Edelman, though, was the issue of personal connections within Latah County and the personal impact this case has had on Latah County residents. The feeling of fear, stress, and anxiety surrounding the homicides were significantly greater in Latah County than in other counties. This was also true for the connections to the University of Idaho and local law enforcement. Dr. Edelman testified that these connections and experiences are the real issue when it comes to seating an impartial jury in Latah County. Based on the results of his surveys, Dr. Edelman opined that in his next This light in my eyes, guys. I need to turn this light down. This light is tripping me out. Give me 1 second. Okay, maybe it's not going to blind me so much. I feel like when I get off of this, I see stars in like little circly stars for like a good 5 minutes because this light is just so bright in my face for literally no reason whatsoever. So I need to start just making sure it's turned down more because damn. Okay. Based on the results of his surveys, Dr. Edelman opined that, in his expert opinion, there is a reasonable likelihood that presumption of guilt prevails in Latah County and that a change of venue is appropriate. Then we're going to move on to Dr. Veronica DeHeer. Dr. Veronica DeHeer was called by the defense to offer her expert opinion as to the validity of the survey work done by Dr. Edelman in this case. Dr. DeHeer testified that the surveys were conducted in accordance with applicable standards and the results are sound. Well, that was nice and fast and quick and to the point. Number 5. Okay, this will be where it happens. I'm going to go to the comments left by mainly the one lady, because she was super, super descriptive and is the one that told me about Steve Goncalves' stuff popping up in court. So we'll read this media articles and video clips, and then I'll go pop over to the videos. I should have left them open, so you're going to have to give me a second to pop them up, but I'll get them real quick. Okay. The defense also submitted numerous media articles and video clips demonstrating the sheer volume of coverage this case has generated. The court agrees, and the state does not dispute, that coverage of this case by both mainstream media and social media outlets has been extensive in Latah County, throughout Idaho, and nationally. While some of the mainstream reporting has been appropriate and based on information from the court record, there has been extensive coverage that is prejudicial to Kohberger and likely inadmissible at trial. Okay, so I'm going to put this here so that I know that that's where I stopped. It's just, I want to like make sure that the light's actually on, because sometimes it looks like this is really dark, because my room is actually pretty dark. Like my light is pretty dim. I have a window on this side of me and a window on this side of me. So during the day, these windows are open and I'm just like pure sunlight, pretty much the whole house. We've got lots of windows. So I go and I pull up my little kitchen window, I pull open the sink window, I pull open the windows in the living room. When it's time to wake up the kids for school, I'm popping open the curtains, putting all the sunlight in. I like it dark in my house, except for sunlight. So I keep the light on so it's not so dark. But it's blinding my eyeballs. Okay, let me go look for this, because I read this and I was impressed, honestly, that they took this big move, because I didn't think that they would be, I don't want to say brave enough, but to like throw Steve up there is wild. Let's see where it is. Right here. It's on that video. Okay. This one. I don't want it to play. Okay. Here it is right here. So this is on the video that I did of, I'm going to move this. The video that I did talking about,
if you could imagine your ideal way of working, what would it look like?
The crazy podcast that Vinnie Politan did, where there was like no nothing, and it just was like talking about, oh, look at this way and look at that way, but there was nothing to look at. I don't know why the hell it was on court TV. I don't even understand. Okay. So I guess I'm gonna have to like scroll. Okay. So this lady right here, and I hope she doesn't mind that I show this, but she posted it on like the comments of the video. So I'm assuming she's okay with me putting this like there because it's already up there. Anyway, she was there. This is not the yellow shirt lady. This is another lady. She's the one who told me what was done whenever the cameras got turned off. So this is according to her. This is what was talked about. Now, I'm not saying that I know that this is 100% factual. There's other people that were there. This person knows that there's other people that were there. I don't find a reason for her to come out here exaggerating stuff whenever other people can easily see it. So we're going to go over it, because I feel like what she said here is pretty valid. Okay. According to what she heard in that whole thing, ISP is the one that had Othram do the family tree. She said, I was in that courtroom on August 29th. The sealed portions were stuff from Nancy Grace, all of the Bryan Kohberger documentaries, stuff from 48 Hours, Dateline, Moscow Murders Facebook group, and Steve G on TV. He looked like he wanted to melt into his seat. Also, All of this public knowledge under 803B. I'm not really quite sure what she means on that one. I'm going to assume maybe that's a rule, an Idaho rule. The G family was at the Healing Garden, and there was not one note for Kaylee, one note for all four, the rest for Xana and Ethan, Maddie, a girl named Paige, and two guys who died in 11 and 12. And apparently she's tall. She mentioned that she was tall. She also mentioned one of the court officers had an Odinist tattoo on his face, which is why I wanted Yellow Shirt. I'm just gonna have to call her Yellow Shirt because I don't know what else like to call her. The Yellow Shirt lady to come over here and read this because I would love her input on this, because if they got people walking around with those tattoos too in Idaho, that'd be interesting. Where's Twiz? I could have sworn I saw him in here a second ago. So I'd like to know if Twizzy has ever seen that kind of stuff. I'd be curious. Okay. So then she says, Steve looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He literally sank into the pew, some of those oddly designed rows that look like church pews. I grew up with one of those in front of my house growing up. I know exactly what she's talking about. Interestingly enough, court officer got nasty with me at 3:20 return from the break, wanted to see my DOJ ID, still said he still wouldn't let me in, had Odin tattoos. So did the thinner court officer. So she's claiming 2. Oh, you've never seen any sheriffs with face tats there. Interesting. Were you in there whenever they closed it off? Whenever they closed off the social media stuff, were you in there and they showed stuff about Steve? Yeah, I guess they thought that she was cops. Part of the Department of Justice. You saw her? Okay. They did. Okay, so yeah. So Twiz says he didn't see any tattoos. She says she saw some. Maybe she saw tattoos and she just wasn't sure what they are. I don't know. But they showed Steve's stuff. They showed this stuff. All right, so just let me know if you hear anything in here that it was just a quote they put on the monitor. The defense didn't talk about it. He was in there too? Yeah. But yeah. She said that they played this stuff. So you're saying they didn't play anything? That's why I wanted the Yellow Shirt girl to come over here and look and see what this girl had to say. But maybe it was just like a still shot of the interview of all that other stuff. She said her Uber driver went to school with Maisie and Hunter. I'm trying to see if she says anything else what they showed in there. So this is where she's also the one who told me in this comment, which is I need to check and see about Gray's bar license apparently being suspended twice. That's one thing I need to look into. I need to look into that. They did play Nancy Grace. Okay, well then, yeah, that's what she said. They played Nancy Grace. There was stuff about documentaries, but they had a pic of Steve with a quote. Okay. Yeah, she says here it's going to be used against him, the stuff about Steve. Everything he said criticizing the investigation, saying he needed someone to step up and be alpha, Keystone cops, etc., zero confidence. He will be called as a hostile witness for the defense, and all of that will help Bryan. They didn't need or want him running to the media after Lanier shared info with the family members. He's a nightmare client. No wonder they cut him off and they hired Shannon Gray. Gray was suspended twice. No one would take on this case or their meritless lawsuit versus the university. You assume your own safety when you move off campus, which is what I assumed. That's what I assumed. But it doesn't surprise me at all that they played stuff about Steve because Steve's been cray-cray. Steve's been super cray-cray. Are you talking to me like you have not been listening the whole time? Or are you asking that to somebody else? Because I've been literally saying for this entire time that they needed to move it. Change of venue automatically means a change of judge. So This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I don't know who you're asking that to, but it doesn't sound like you've been listening to a word I said if you're asking me that question. Just saying. No, not at all. I am confused about whether he's going to be handling the hearings up until trial or else he's trying to get removed now. That's the only thing I'm trying to figure out. Nobody round up about nothing. I can't stand people with no comprehension. God, she is scary. The Gull of Gull. Yeah, Gull is a horrible judge. She's a horrible judge. I was gonna say, I don't really know, but I do know. She's made some really horrible decisions. Horrible decisions. Horrible. Okay. So that's what she said. I found it interesting that they played Steve's stuff. I mean, again, he's a victim's father. I get that. I know where people give him a lot of sympathy, but it's also been 2 years. It's been 2 years, and he seems to have just gotten a lot more immature with stuff. I'm just saying. I mean, it doesn't. Honestly, I thought it did, but then I also was told, no, there's actually a chance that Judge could go along with it. This whole thing, to me, the whole change of venue thing was just about the jury. It had nothing to do with the judge. It was all about the jury and then being way too unbiased. The judge isn't the one making the decision of whether he's guilty or going to be given the death penalty. It's the jury. So there'd be no reason for literally anybody to be upset about the judge being replaced because he's got zero power over what happens here anyway. So, yeah, it doesn't always mean a new judge. But the way that they're doing this one, that's another thing too. A lot of people are confused on whether the Supreme Court could keep him, even though he's technically requesting for the Supreme Court to assign somebody else and assign a change of venue. I don't know. I guess we really just gonna have to watch. I mean, we're gonna anyway, but we're gonna have to watch and see what happens. Yeah. That part. I'd be worried about a new judge and what they might try. That's what I'm saying about the trial. Girl, that's what I said. We don't know if he's going to allow cameras. She is going to allow cameras. We don't know if they're going to have court cameras, if they're going to let court TV come in, if they're going to allow any of it. Will they allow us to record and restream so that we can discuss? Or is it going to be one stream only? And if you're caught doing anything cray-cray, then we're going to file something against you and strike your channel. Because that could happen. That could happen. We don't know what they're going to do. No clue. This opens up an entirely new realm of possibility about what could happen, which we already knew was going to be a situation. We already knew it. But a lot of us really thought it was going to be Ada County. I literally read all of them at the beginning of the stream. What do you mean? I literally read them. You were here, I thought. Yeah. They did. They talked about us live streaming and then talking. Well, if they would leave it up on their own website, then maybe so many of us wouldn't have to live stream it because they get rid of it. They get rid of it. They shouldn't be getting rid of it. We want to be able to pay attention. Yeah, case by case. Lori Vallow with only audio. As much as I would like to see it visually, I would be fine with only audio. Because it would at least be real. It would be real. Ugh, who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? Okay, go back to this now. Standard. Both the Idaho Constitution and the United States Constitution protect a defendant's right to a fair trial by impartial jury. To help achieve a constitutionally sound trial, Idaho Criminal Rule 21 allows transfer of a case for trial in certain instances. Idaho Criminal Rule 21A, which we went over, states that on motion of either party, the court must transfer the proceeding to another county if the court is satisfied that a fair and impartial trial cannot be held in the county where the case is pending. Right, that's automatic number one, because duh. Similarly, Idaho Code 19-1801 states that a criminal action prosecuted by indictment may be removed from the court in which it is pending on the application of the defendant on the grounds that a fair and impartial trial cannot be had in the county where the indictment is pending. Idaho Criminal Rule 21 also allows a transfer for convenience. On motion of the defendant, the court may transfer the proceeding to another county for the convenience of parties and witnesses and in the interest of justice. Now, notice they're not giving any explanations for that part. The convenience part. They're given all these other examples for all these other parts of this, but they're not giving any examples for what they're talking about for this convenience part. I feel like they probably could have stayed with the argument without listing that one, because that's been like the opposite argument. They were even talking about, like, even the two sides were talking about money and how much it was going to cost for each little step of whichever way they were going to go. Yeah, that part, they're not, whatever. Okay. A motion for change of venue pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 21 is left to the discretion of the trial court, according to Steve versus Hayden from earlier this year, 2024. Okay. Analysis. Prejudice. In deciding a motion for change of venue, the court determines whether, in the totality of the circumstances, juror exposure to pretrial publicity will result in a trial that is not fundamentally fair. The critical inquiry is whether the nature of their exposure to pretrial publicity caused the prospective juror to form an opinion about the defendant's guilt, and as a result, they are unable to serve as an unbiased juror. In determining whether a criminal defendant actually received a fair trial, the Idaho Supreme Court considers the following factors. 1. The existence of affidavits indicating prejudice or an absence of prejudice in the community where the trial took place. 2. The testimony of the jurors at jury selection regarding whether they had formed an opinion based upon adverse pretrial publicity. 3. Whether the defendant challenged for cause any of the jurors finally selected. 4. The nature and content of the pretrial publicity. And 5. The amount of time elapsed between the pretrial publicity and the trial. Some of these factors can only be evaluated during or after jury selection, while others can be evaluated by the trial court in deciding an earlier motion to change the venue. I am actually really, really glad this is how it went, because I honestly thought that they were going to try to keep it in Latah County, and then they were going to get to jury selection, and then they were going to realize that it was the wrong move, and then everything was going to end up getting pushed back a little. That's honestly how I thought this was going to go. So I'm glad that that didn't happen, because I feel like it definitely would have pushed back the trial some. And we don't need that. We need to get to it, because with these gag orders and all this bullshittery happening, we just need to get to the point. I just want to see the evidence. Can we get to the evidence? Can we get to the facts? Quit dancing. So stupid. Actual prejudice. In evaluating actual juror prejudice, the relevant question is not whether the community remembered the case, but whether the jurors at trial had such fixed opinions that they would not judge impartially the guilt of the defendant. And it's citing Patent versus Yount from 1984. Stated differently, courts must evaluate whether, in the totality of the existing circumstances, juror exposure to pretrial publicity resulted in a trial that was not fundamentally fair. Oh, I got the hiccups now. Those damn burgers. Fundamentally fair. The defendant bears the burden of proving prejudice or showing a reasonable likelihood that there was prejudice. In reviewing case law, a finding of actual jury prejudice rests on an examination of the jury selection process. This includes evaluating how jurors answered screening questionnaires, the testimony during My brain has a freaking plug or something, bro. Literally, the second I see that word all italicized, my brain literally just shuts off. It's like Damon on Vampire Diaries with his human switch. It's just instant. My brain just glitches. During Valdir, you know what? I'm just gonna say how I want to. That's how I'm gonna say it. Of the veneer as a whole, and the juror is eventually seated, and any juror is seated despite a for-cause challenge by the defense. And then it cites Skillings versus U.S. from 2010, and again Hayden. And then it says, in reviewing a trial court's decision denying a change of venue motion, the Idaho Supreme Court considers the testimony of the jurors at jury selection regarding whether they had informed an opinion based upon adverse pretrial publicity, whether the defendant challenged for cause any of the jurors finally selected. These factors are considered along with evaluating the pretrial publicity itself and the timing of the publicity. Here, the defense argues that the survey work of Dr. Edelman establishes actual prejudice within Latah County. However, actual prejudice cannot be evaluated at this juncture based on a survey in some 400 Latah County residents who are anonymous, did not answer questions in court, and were not subject to questioning by the state. Without attempting to seat a jury, there is no real evidence, such as juror screening questionnaires and testimony during voir dire, for this court to evaluate actual prejudice. I understand what he's saying, and obviously it doesn't matter. Obviously it doesn't matter because they granted the change of venue. But for him to sit there and say that they can't technically measure this because they didn't conduct the survey questionnaire themselves or the jury screening questionnaire themselves is honestly a little cray-cray because he saw the results. I'm really trying not to. It is so stupid. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to let it come out how it comes out. And if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And it just is what it is. It just is what it is. Okay. Presumed prejudice. Adverse pretrial publicity can create such a presumption of prejudice in a community that the jurors' claims that they can be impartial should not be believed. Yeah. Pretrial publicity can create such a presumption of prejudice in a community that jurors' claims they can be impartial should not be believed. Yeah, they'll say they can be unbiased. They'll say that they can look on both sides, but they can't. It's in the back of their minds. It's subconsciously back there, regardless of how much in the front they try to act like they could. We know how humans are programmed and how they're wired and how they work and how the brain is. It's impossible. However, a presumption of prejudice attends only the extreme case. The juror exposure to news accounts of the crime alone does not presumptively deprive the defendant of due process. Indeed, prominence does not necessarily produce prejudice, and juror impartiality does not require ignorance. That's true. You can know about the case and still be impartial, be able to be impartial, but there's definitely like a boundary, right? Like there's a fine line that you cross. Like you can know about the case, you can know their names, you can know the manner of death, the cause of death, you can know certain things, but there's a line of information and knowledge of a case that you definitely would have to not cross over. Definitely. But what is that line? And who determines it? Who determines the line? Because I don't know. Do y'all hear my kids' TV? I feel like I hear my kids' TV. Let me know if you hear anything in the background. You don't hear that? No? You don't hear it? Good. Fine with me. As long as y'all can't hear it, then I ain't even going to tell them nothing. Okay. Unlike with actual prejudice, a finding of presumed prejudice means that the court need not consider jury screening questionnaires or testimony. Did I just read that part? No. Or testimony during voir dire before declaring a jury verdict void, or in this case, declaring a change of venue appropriate based on prejudice. It is the defendant's burden to establish a reasonable likelihood prejudicial news coverage prevented or will prevent a fair trial in violation of the Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution. This is not an unreasonably high hurdle for a defendant to clear. Is it not? I mean, it is, because look how long it's taken for him to be able to get a change of venue and how many times they've had to argue the same argument over and over again to the point to where it's on my nerves. I'm sure it's on their nerves too. In cases where juror prejudice has been presumed, the following factors have been examined. 1, the size and characteristics of the community in which the crime occurred. 2, whether news stories contained a confession or other blatantly prejudicial information of the type readers or viewers could not reasonably be expected to shut from sight. 3, the lapse of time between prejudicial news coverage and the trial. There isn't any. I mean, there's ebbs and flows, but there isn't any. It's pretty constant. And 4, what the jury actually found as far as guilt is concerned, i.e., was the defendant acquitted of some charges. In Idaho, courts consider 1, the existence of affidavits indicating prejudice or an absence of prejudice in the community where the trial took place. 2, the nature and content of the pretrial publicity. 3, the amount of time elapsed between the pretrial publicity and the trial. It's all the exact same thing. When reviewing the nature and content of the pretrial publicity, the trial court should be concerned with the accuracy of the pretrial publicity, the extent to which the articles are inflammatory, inaccurate, or beyond the scope of admissible evidence, and the number of articles, and whether the jurors were so incessantly exposed to such articles that they had suddenly become conditioned to accept a particular version of the facts at trial. Okay, let's read that one again. We had one that we really, really, really wanted the Goncalveses to read. So now I'm going to face this one straight to Bill Thompson and Ann Taylor. Both of them. Okay. When reviewing the nature and content of the pretrial publicity, the trial court should be concerned with the accuracy of the pretrial publicity, the extent to which the articles are inflammatory, inaccurate, and beyond the scope of admissible evidence, and the number of articles, and whether the jurors were so incessantly exposed to such articles that they had suddenly become conditioned to accept a particular version of the facts at trial. I mentioned that whenever I was looking through stuff, I saw that technically, even under a gag order in Idaho, that a defense attorney is allowed to come out and clear up incorrect and inflammatory statements that are out there in the media, in the public, against their clients. Yet we saw none of that from Ann Taylor. None. What we did see is Ann Taylor making very strategic moves in order to light a fire under Bill Thompson's ass to literally tell on his own damn self. We saw that. So there's some real, maybe 5D chess happening here. Honestly. Because she's really not doing anything. She's literally allowing them to do it all for her. I don't know. I feel like she's strategically maneuvering it, but I also feel like the whole standing silent thing really isn't helping too much, because if she's trying to keep what Bryan wants with the whole standing silent thing, and that in turn is why she hasn't come out and corrected any inflammatory statements, I don't really think that's the way to go. I just don't think that's the way to go. So I don't know. That's my opinion. I feel like as much as I, that have no skin in the game, get aggravated by some of these really insane comments that come out here that are falsely tagged as case fact, I feel like she would want to correct that stuff a lot more. Do you think she's not coming out and saying that these things aren't true because they are in fact true? No. Because Thompson's already said they weren't. That's what I think it is. Or do you think she's not correcting things because she wants misinformation out there in order to create doubt? I mean, if there is doubt, she's doing really, really good at holding it up. But honestly, I don't know if it would have made a difference just because of the facts that are out there, regardless of what she said. But I still find it interesting that she's never made it the same way she technically, as far as I can tell, has not filed anything officially to reverse the gag order. Not officially. Not that we can see. She was also okay with the house being gone, which I understand that if Bryan is innocent, then the house doesn't do any good for him. But it does good for the case because in the end, it's about the case, guys. Bryan just happens to technically be a part of the case right now. But at the end of the day, we do need to remember the reason why we all even started looking at this case. And it wasn't because of Bryan. So again, as much as I understand that Ann Taylor's job is to protect her client, I really wish that the defense were also trying to also protect the integrity of the case itself. Is it impossible to do both? Is it impossible to protect the integrity of this case and not try to minimize what actually happened here as being disgusting and horrible and everything that it actually is, including it actually being, yes, it is worthy of the death penalty? Can you come out here and defend your client that you believe is innocent without minimizing the tragedy that he's being accused of? There's got to be a way to do that. There isn't going to be one, Crime Tech. I think that if he walks from this, that they're not going to solve it. They won't be able to. They won't be able to. And I mean, we pretty much have proof of that. And it's all based off what Cy Ray said in court. Cy Ray stood up and said that he's seen it. He's seen the discovery. Not only is what he's seeing and not seeing making it to where Bryan is technically, it's all exculpatory to Bryan. All of it. But location and time specific to the crime, data missing, means they can't implicate anybody else either. They can't. The 3 DNA, they don't seem to give a damn about. You think they're going to go back and try to figure that out? Try to get the information? The missing information? No. It's missing because they got the wrong guy and the real people's information is really in there and it's missing for a reason. That's why Mallory and Payne are so completely stupidly incompetent and can't even answer simple questions. That's why. Yeah. The house had potentially the biggest clue in the entire case. So while somebody who's defending somebody who was supposed to be innocent might deem it not worthy of a damn dime to them, to the case, it's worth all of it. To the case, it's priceless. To the case, it's priceless. So I don't know. Just things that bother me. Bothers me. Okay. Let's try to finish this now. We're on page 14. Okay. First, as to the size and characteristics of the community, Latah County is a relatively small community with a population of approximately 41,000, 24,963 who are eligible to serve on a jury. Exhibit C, memorandum in support of motion for venue change, is I guess where they got that info from. So they're citing whenever they use stuff from the defense's paperwork, and I guess they're doing the same with the states. The state argues that this is enough to impanel 18 impartial individuals. The defense argues that the small, tight-knit community makes it impossible to find impartial individuals because of the extensive publicity Latah County residents have been exposed to, the emotional experience and feelings of fear residents experienced in the wake of the homicides, feelings of loyalty to the community, and community connections. The defense's position is supported by the testimony of Todd Murphy, Dr. L. Elaley, and Dr. Edelman. As Mr. Murphy testified, 36% of all mainstream news coverage of this case throughout Idaho has been in Latell County. This, coupled with the smaller population in Latell County, makes the probability of Latell County residents' exposure to such coverage higher than in Ada County, Bannock, and Canyon County. Dr. L. O'Leary testified that the more publicity one is exposed to, the more likely an individual is to dislike Kohberger and view him as guilty. While Dr. Edelman's survey results suggest that similar percentages of survey respondents throughout the counties surveyed knew of the case and presumed Kohberger was guilty, the sheer number of individuals in the larger counties increased by chances of impaneling a fair and impartial jury. Further, both Dr. L. O'Leary and Dr. Edelman expressed great concern over the emotional experiences, feelings of fear, and personal connections of Latell County residents. These issues are unique to Latell County and exasperated by the small size of the community. Potential jurors in Ada County, for example, did not experience the same level of fear caused by the homicides as Latell County residents. Similarly, it is far more likely for jurors in Latell County to know someone involved in the investigation of the case or otherwise related to the case, and more likely that Latell County residents have discussed the case with each other and the Goncalveses. Because remember, the Goncalveses were out here interviewing people about how just fair Latell County could be to Bryan. Wild. Was that the same day? That was the same day, wasn't it? Because Bryan Inton did that interview with them in front of the Memorial Garden on that long lunch break, right? So he must have seen that and then still went out there. Is Twiz still in here? So they showed that part during the cutoff when she showed the YouTube stuff, and then he was like, oh no, we're not showing this. And then they cut off, came back for all of like 3 minutes to tell us they were taking a lunch break. So that stuff got shown of Steve Goncalves running his mouth, saying cray stuff during that little like pause. Then they had the lunch break where he went and said what he said in front of Bryan Inton about the jury. Because that was the same day, guys. Holy guacamole. See, Steve's not going to learn. Steve is not going to learn. That's crazy. That's what I mean. The lunch was after the closed part. So Steve got shown while he was sitting in court in that pew when he melted in his chair, when he saw his face pop up, he saw that happen and then walked out for that long lunch. No, the lunch was after because they came back from that break and then went to lunch. And we were like, bro, for real? I remember that because I was like, there's no way. There's no way. They literally came back on for like maybe 5-7 minutes. And then it went to lunch. And they were gone for well over an hour. And we kept the stream going. And the only thing I did was go in and edit the actual like court breaks out. So he got shown himself. And then 20 minutes later went outside and told Bryan Inton on national television that they were interviewing Latell County residents about a fair and impartial jury. That's wild. Wild. He don't learn. 20 minutes later, he's still out there being crazy, running his mouth. I don't even know if I have any thoughts about old Steve anymore. He just blows my mind every time he does anything else. It's just insane. Okay. Next, as discussed above, it is undisputed that there has been significant media coverage in this case throughout the state and nationally. While some of the coverage has been neutral reporting of the court proceedings, much of the coverage has been sensationalized and prejudicial to Kohberger. By the way of example, the defense provided the court with 1,222 pages of news articles covering the case from one local newspaper, bro. Over 1,200 pages is from one paper. Crazy. One article published after Kohberger's arrest includes statements from Washington State University students who reported feeling weird having sat in class with Kohberger and felt relieved knowing Kohberger had been arrested. Ask Cassie how she feels. Another article starts out by referring to Kohberger as the man accused of slaughtering 4 University of Idaho students. I mean, but that's a true statement. He is accused of it. That doesn't say the man that did that. It just says accused of it. Okay. The title of yet another article refers to Kohberger as the UI killer, which is definitely more of a definitive than an accused statement. So I agree with that one. While the issue of extensive sensationalized coverage is not unique to Latah County, it is potentially more impactful given the volume of coverage coupled with the smaller population. Do y'all see that? Do y'all see that right there? Or is it just me? I guess it's just a little pop on the paper. Is that one too big? Yeah. Okay. As to the lapse of time between coverage and trial, the information provided by Mr. Murphy demonstrates that coverage has overall waned since February of 2023. However, there is an uptick in coverage before and after hearings and court decisions, like normal. Nothing special about that. That's absolutely normal. This is especially true for Latah County, with Ada County following a similar trajectory. The court does not anticipate this trend will change leading up to trial and anticipates the coverage will substantially increase in the weeks and days before the start of trial. It will. A lot. Finally, while this court does not have affidavits demonstrating prejudice in Latah County, the court must consider the results of the survey Dr. Edelman prepared. Again, while the presumption of guilt was similar across all the counties surveyed, the number was more impactful in Latah County given the smaller population. Some 67% of Latah County survey respondents reported believing Kohberger is guilty, with 51% of those indicating it would be hard for Kohberger to convince them of his innocence. While a similar percentage answered these questions, the same in Ada County, the impact of these numbers when considering population size are drastically different. Latah County has approximately 24,000 residents who are eligible for jury service. If 50% of them are disqualified for having fixed opinions as to Kohberger's guilt, only 12,000 individuals remain. Well, you only need 18 out of 12,000, so that's pretty good numbers. This is before any have been excused for hardship such as illness, breastfeeding, loss of wages for a 3-month-long trial, 3-month-long trial, sole child care provider for young children, etc. Thus, while considering the prejudice in Latah County demonstrated in Dr. Edelman's survey and the population size of Latah County together, the court is concerned that if venue is not changed now, it will be asked to reconsider its decision during jury selection, which, if granted at that juncture, would very likely result in the trial being delayed many months. Isn't that what I said? That's what I said. And that's what I was thinking was going to happen, but was hoping wasn't going to happen. I figured they were going to try because it's how much they try to act like, oh, we got to give Latah a chance. We got to give Latah a chance. I really thought they were going to try. I'm so glad they didn't. This needed to happen so that this didn't happen. We don't need any more delays in trial. We need to get to it already. Considering the undisputed evidence presented by the defense, the extreme nature of the news coverage in this case, and the smaller population in Latah County, the defense has met the rather low standard of demonstrating a reasonable likelihood that prejudicial news coverage will compromise a fair trial in Latah County. Thus, the court will grant Kohberger's motion to change venue for presumed prejudice. Number 2, okay, convenience and interest of justice. I wonder what convenience he's going to talk about because we've yet to see where they're getting that part from. I feel like this was a strong enough argument without that part. Let's see. Convenience and interest of justice. Even without a finding of presumed prejudice, venue in this case must be changed for the convenience of parties and witnesses and in the interest of justice. While this issue was summarily addressed by the parties, the court has considered the logistics while the motion for change of venue was pending. While Latell County court staff and court security are ready and willing to facilitate this trial to the best of their ability, there are serious issues that cannot be resolved no matter how much planning and preparation is done. First, and perhaps most important, is the issue of safety and security for the parties, witnesses, victims, families, jurors, and the Latell County community. The Latell County Sheriff's Office, which is currently fully staffed, simply lacks the number of officers needed to provide security for the trial while also continuing to perform their day-to-day duties of patrol and responding to calls. One solution is to ask the Idaho State Police and the Moscow Police Department to help. Of course you could. However, officers from both ISP and MPD were heavily involved with investigating the homicides, and it is anticipated that several officers will be called to testify at trial. I'm sure they will. Additionally, those first responders. Smith, Nunez. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what they have to say. Man, they better have cameras. I want to hear from those freaking first responders. Now I done lost my spot because I got to thinking about that. Damn. Man, I can't wait. Additionally, it is the court's understanding that both of those agencies are currently understaffed. Pulling local officers away from their normal duties for 3 months to provide trial security would potentially put the Latell County community at risk. Further, in the event of a natural disaster, such as a wildfire or a large emergency, like an active shooter or multi-vehicle wreck, there is a very real possibility that officers tasked with trial security would be pulled away to deal with other issues. And I know that probably seems like far out thinking to some, but this kind of active shooter stuff and these large emergencies and things that are just popping off and causing evacuations and all kind of crazy crap, this has been going on constant. You literally cannot go a single day without some sort of mass casualty event happening on the news. So even though it sounds like a 1 in a million chance, you just don't know anymore. And I know, I'll pause here for a second. I know that I need to look into what the drunk turkeys are talking about, because they're trying to claim something about the last kid. What school was it? Apparently he was following Bryan Kohberger. Or was posting about Bryan Kohberger. Was it Georgia? Is that where it just happened? I know they've been talking about that, and I heard JLR say something about it on X, on Twitter, a TikTok video or something. I'm going to get the information on that and clear that up, because I know a lot of people are like, what the hell? And you know that they just kind of grab everything and run with it, even if they have no proof of nothing, because they cray-cray, the Cody guy. Yeah. So I'm going to look at it myself. But the second I saw that, I was like, are y'all for real? But look, we know for a fact there's a teenager that did some Gypsy Rose shit to her mama and included her boyfriend in it. So it's not like these kids don't see certain things and take it to their heads because they don't understand it. So just in case if this kid really was, if it was a real profile and he really had videos of Bryan Kohberger and he saw that kind of stuff, okay, A, Bryan most likely was not the only person that he was following stories of, and B, no 13, 14-year-old is looking at court documents, honey. They're looking at the girls getting the letters sent off to jail and the Reddit post about how these girls are all over these idiots. That's what they see. They're not going into court. They're not going in and looking at documents and reading stuff. The 13-year-olds only see this stuff on social media, 13 to 14-year-olds. So even if that is the case, that has nothing to do with Bryan. They can't blame Bryan for anything. It's just insane. Just completely insane. So yeah. I don't know if it was debunked. I just know a bunch of people have been talking about it and been posting it around, and I had 3 people mention it to me today. 3. So I don't know. 1 second. I know Well, I know the Goncalves started it because JLR had it and he gets all his stuff from Steve. 1 second. Okay. It's crazy children. Okay. So we were at where now? Okay. We did that part and I said, yeah, that's a possibility. Okay. Thus, while our local law enforcement is ready and willing to do what they need to do to ensure a safe trial, there is not enough officers to ensure the safety of the parties, witnesses, victims' families, jurors, and community for a 3-month period. That is a long time. Yeah, I mentioned that to my kids today. Ariel mentioned something about the trial. I was like, have you seen me live streaming every single day for 6 to 8 weeks straight? No. She's like, what? It's like, yeah, girl. This is going to go on for a whole lot longer than anybody really thinks. It's going to be a long time. I've never gone through and watched a jury trial or really, like, I've followed cases and I've always just like got updates, but to literally follow step by step by step by step by step by step, this technically is like the very, 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 very first one. Like, I know that, like, Kylie Rodney's case, we follow from beginning to end, and now we have the MAIT report that's finally going to be coming out for the public this week. But that one doesn't have this. Like, we have what they want us to believe is a conclusion in that story, but it's not like this. So it's interesting to see how all this stuff plays out like this, because it's going to be a long, long journey. Similarly, Latell County does not have enough court clerks to efficiently manage the jury selection process. It is anticipated that general qualification questions will need to be sent out to some 6,000 individuals. The court clerks will be tasked with then entering juror information from these 6,000 individuals into an electronic system. This task alone will require several clerks and will take time. Latell County has only one court clerk currently familiar with the process, and she has several other day-to-day responsibilities outside of her role as jury commissioner. Is it the one that makes all the spelling mistakes? Is it the one that constantly makes errors and messes me all up whenever I'm actually on a roll reading and then all of a sudden an S or a D is missing and I freak out? Is that the one? Is that the one? Thus, to accomplish this task, Latell County would have to bring in clerks from other counties to help, along with extra computer equipment for those clerks to perform their work. After the initial process, the court would summon in some 1,800 individuals to fill out extensive juror questionnaires. Again, this process would require both court clerks and court security to take attendance, manage and move the individuals where they need to go to fill out questionnaires in privacy, scan questionnaires, and quickly get the questionnaires to the court and counsel. Again, while Latell County court staff are willing to do what needs to be done, the reality is that we do not have enough individuals to perform the task of jury selection effectively and efficiently. So if you knew that from the beginning, then why did we go through all of this? Which is, I think, pretty much what Shannon Gray said in his little letter when it comes to the Goncalves family statement. Like, duh. If you knew all this, then why are y'all arguing this? You sitting here trying to make me believe that y'all didn't get together for brunch somewhere and have this conversation probably multiple times and wrote it off as a business expense because it was a business lunch? Come on. That's the convenience part. Bro, tell me. The second I saw that today, I was like, okay, but Darth Vader died already. We buried Mufasa like some years ago. What you mean? For those of you who don't know, James Earl Jones, the voice of Mufasa and Darth Vader, apparently died today at 93. And me and my two oldest were like, no, bro, this happened already. What you mean? She's 17 and he's 15, and they already are like, no, we did this already. No, we didn't. We did this. What you mean? Yeah, very strange. Very, 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 very strange. Very big Mandela effect. Yeah. Big one. So I was like, we did this. We did this. Okay. Further, the Latell County Courthouse itself poses significant issues for a trial of this length and magnitude. The courthouse lacks the space needed by both the state and the defense. While the state has dedicated space within the courthouse, the state would still be faced with the challenge of escorting sensitive witnesses through public spaces in the courthouse to get to the courtroom. Meanwhile, the defense does not have a dedicated space within the courthouse, and there are limited options available. The few options available, i.e., the district court meeting room or a pre-trial room, are small, located in public areas, and are not soundproof. That's important. Soundproof is important. These locations do not provide the defense with the privacy it needs during trial to meet with each other and witnesses. Further, the jury room itself is problematic in terms of its size. Fitting 12 to 13 jurors in the jury room for a routine trial is crowded. Fitting 18 jurors in the jury room for 3 months would be uncomfortable at best. Additionally, the door between the jury room and the courtroom is not soundproof. Further, court security would be tasked with trying to bring the jury into the courthouse in a fashion that ensured the jury's privacy while also ensuring the court's privacy. The only options for bringing the jury into the courtroom is through the public hallway or directly past the court's chambers. Neither are good options. Further, there is also the issue of the continuing day-to-day operations at the Latah County Courthouse. The magistrate judge will continue to have daily hearings. A district judge will continue with day-to-day operations of the district court, and the juvenile and CPS caseloads will have to continue. Additionally, the clerk's office must continue with its day-to-day operations of processing case filings, taking payments. Oh, you don't want to mess that up. You don't want to get in the way of them taking their money. Assisting the public. All these normal court operations will undoubtedly be strained by the resources required for this trial in terms of space and personnel. While traveling to another county for 3 months is indeed convenient for the attorneys, the court, some family members of the victims, and some witnesses, having the trial at the Latah County Courthouse would also be convenient in numerous ways, and beyond that, would present serious safety risks. Thus, the interest of justice requires that the trial be moved to a venue with the resources, both in terms of personnel and space, necessary to effectively and efficiently handle a trial of this magnitude and length, so that the parties and the court can focus on the case and not on the peripheral issues. Back where we started. Conclusion and order. Kohberger's motion to change venue is granted pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 21A and 21B. Consistent with the language of Idaho Criminal Rule 21C 2B, this court orders a transfer of venue without specifying the new place of venue and refers the case to the administrative director of the courts for assignment by the Supreme Court to a court of proper venue in another judicial district and assignment of a specific judge to preside in the criminal proceedings. Now, guys, I have not changed my mind. I've not changed my mind. I am going to read the rule again. I think I'm right. I'm just going to sit here and say that I'm right. I think I'm right, and lawyer, and the Goncalveses are wrong about this. And I could be the one wrong, but I have gone through all of this document, guys. And some of you have already agreed with me. But now we've read the entire thing. And we're going to read the rule again. 21. Transfer for trial. 2B. Can I make it bigger? Is my head in the way? Of course it is. Can I move this over? No. Hold on. Right here. Okay. Right here. Does it show it? Right here. If the original judge does not desire to continue the assignment over the case, the assignment the assignment over the case, the judge must enter an order transferring the case without specifying the new place of venue, and then refer the case to the administrative director of the courts for assignment by the Supreme Court to a court of proper venue in another judicial district and assignment of a specific judge to preside in the criminal proceeding. I do not in any way think that the judge is stepping down right now. I don't. And again, I could be wrong. I could be. But this entire argument is only about the trial. I don't believe the judge is going to be stepping down and not being the judge on November the 7th. I think we're going to see Judge, and we're going to have it streaming on the channel like it has been. I don't think that we're going to have a change in the judge or anything else until we get to trial. Yeah, I just don't. That's not how I'm reading it. Because the basic fight is what matters. It all has to go back to the base. And the base of this argument is a change of venue for the trial itself next summer, 2025, not for everything else. So again, I could be wrong, but I know that there's lawyers arguing with each other, because there's lawyers that think like Peter thinks, with lawyer, thinks, where, yeah, he's stepping down, he washed his hands of it, he used it as a way out, blah, blah, blah. And then there's others that think like me. They're like, no, it's just for the trial. He's going to still be the lawyer while things are still being handled in Latah County because we have the scheduling order to still go through. So I guess no one's really going to know for sure until November 7th. I guess that's how it's going to go. But that's what I think is happening. I think I am correct. I could not be, but I think my brain understood it the same way now that it did before I even read the rule. I'm just glad that they changed it and it didn't go the way that I originally thought, because I really thought they were going to be full of poop and have a big ego and not allow the change of venue whatsoever. I thought it was going to be a really big problem, and I'm glad it wasn't. I read the sightings, and it had nothing to do with it. It didn't have anything to do with anything but the trial. I don't know if the new judge has to know the case technically, Tonka, because in the end, it's a jury trial. It's a jury trial. So I don't know if that's true. They just have to be able to handle their job, as in telling the court how to proceed. Yeah. Think of all the damage the bad actors can do to Ada County until summer, though. Yeah, no, I mean, all the issues here with them changing it and having a whole year until trial, I can see this being a problem. I can see it being a problem. Playing exactly as she said. What does that mean? What does that mean? I'm just reading the document. I'm just hoping I'm right. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm hoping I'm right. My brain is telling me that I'm still thinking it this way. Thank you, Veronica. I appreciate that. Yeah, the media is going to start being stupid in Ada County if that's where the Supreme Court decides to take it, because we still have to wait for the Supreme Court decision. That it would be inconvenient for him. Yeah. I remember. So you don't think he's going to be the judge on November the 7th, Elster? I don't know, bro. I think it's going to be him. Yeah, but okay, so how would that work? I guess, so let's talk about that. If the Supreme Court goes ahead and changes stuff over like they're going to anyway, there ain't no if, they're going to make a decision. and they end up having to choose somebody that's from a different district for wherever they decide to move it. They're then going to have to decide which judge is going to be handling it once the trial starts. They can't move the entire thing to another county for all of the exact same reasons they just mentioned in this would cost a lot of money for a lot of things. They're already trying to figure out how to do portions of stuff before then. So unless another judge is going to be coming into Latah County for the next year's worth of hearings, I just don't see how that's going to work. Didn't Daybell's trial judge change, but he kept the other one for all the pretrial motions and hearings? I don't know. See, I don't have any idea about how they handled that case, but it'd be kind of important, I guess, at this point to go in and look and see, because I'm not too sure. I am not too sure whatsoever. I am just not too sure. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it's not clear. It's not clear. It's not clear at all. So I don't know. I need some clarification. They need to clarify it. I am still right now standing on he is going to be the judge over all of the local stuff that's still happening in Latah County when it comes to deadlines, when it comes to all the things that we went over in the scheduling order at the beginning of the thing, beginning of the live. I think that he is still going to be. No, it's not 100% clear. I mean, I can go back and read the rules again for the millionth time, but the rules he cited does not state that at all. It's not 100% clear at all, literally at all. We've got lawyers arguing with each other about what it means. It's definitely not clear. It's definitely not clear. Okay, so see, okay, so everything but the trial was in the original. So like what I just said, that's exactly what I just said, that everything up until trial will be original and in Latah County, but then the trial will be different, and that's whenever the judge and everything will change. $11,700. $11,700. I'm like, I'll pull it back up. I mean, I will gladly go back over the rule one more time, because it's not clear at all. This is the rule. If the original judge does not desire to continue the assignment over the case, that does not mean for the whole case, because again, this is for trial. That's what I'm trying to explain about how important it is to pay attention to specifics, details, and verbiage. That's another thing. We should if there's going to be, but I don't think there's going to be. Daybell is not different because it's still Idaho rule. Daybell is not different. It still follows the same rules. I'm totally fine with the venue change. I wanted the venue change. But it does sound like it's going to be a change of judge. Now, something that I'm not sure of is if the Supreme Court changes it. Oh, no, it has to be out of it has to be out of district. It has to be out of district. It has to be out of district. But that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the fact that this is for the motion to change the venue for the actual trial itself, and that these Idaho criminal rules are specifically for trial. Not for pre-trial hearings, pre-trial motions, and all the pre stuff. This is just for trial. Just for trial. That's where I'm going with this. That's why I said, that's why I'm keeping my stance on this. The thing behind closed doors was that he apparently had over like 100 slides to go and look at that were associated with the evidence on the change of venue stuff. Articles. So, yeah. No, that is what he's doing, but he's not slipping out. See, that's the thing that everyone is like not getting on the same page on. He's not on the same page. That's why I'm showing it's trial rule. Like people want to say, oh, he's citing the rule. It's very clear. Well, the rule is very clear that it's only for trial, that it's not for anything else. It's specific for trial only. Specific for trial. Not case, not pre-trial. The in-camera phrasing is the stupidest shit ever because it has nothing to do with the camera. It's like, who allows this stuff? Like, I know it goes off of Latin, but I'm like, can we not? Can we use something that doesn't mean the opposite of what it actually means? Because this has nothing to do with the freaking camera. Specifics, details, verbiage, like in all different fonts, right? Like one of those live, laugh, love t-shirts. It is a freaking nightmare. I hate medical terminology and medical rules, and then I hate law terminology and logical rules. It's so a freaking mess. It's a mess. You're welcome, Brian. I'm super trying. And I saw somebody say that they think I do have parts of that interview in one of my videos. And I'm positive that I do because we did talk about that interview, I think 2 different times, but I don't know if we talked about any of that stuff. Legalese, YouTubies, making me want to eat some Chinese. I know. I'm tired of it. But for now, and again, I could be wrong. And I've come out and done videos where I was like, oops, guys, I was wrong. And this is really what it means. So if you see a video like that from me, then don't be shocked because it won't be the first time I've corrected myself. But with what I'm reading, it looks like it's specific to trial. And he's not stepping down and not going to be doing, this is not the last choice he's going to be making in the case. It's the way that the Goncalves has put it that I'm like, hold up, we're going to have to figure this out because that's very specific. Very, very specific. See, and I think that that's where people are, that's the whole stepping away thing right here. The judge basically is like, I don't want to make this decision. Yes, I agree the change of venue is needed for all of these reasons, but I don't want to be the one who chooses where it goes. So y'all figure all that out yourselves because I'm out of it. That's basically what it was. It wasn't really him stepping away. It was more, yeah, it needs to happen, but I'm not going to say which way it needs to go. The higher ups need to do all that. I mean, she can. I haven't heard that myself, but that's not how I'm reading this because like I said, this is trial rule. So come 11/7, if we don't see Judge on the stand, then I'm wrong, and that's not a big deal. Because I'm going off of when I'm saying it. Like, I feel like I'm right off of my own opinion about how my brain is interpreting it, and I'm not going to argue about it. It's just what it is, and it is. If it isn't, then we'll find out. We shall find out. It will be. It will be. That'll be some shit. If he's actually, like, sitting there and everybody is in there. Yeah. But that's what I think this is. I think that's what it was. I think he passed the buck to the Supreme Court so that they can make the decision on where to go because he didn't want to say anything. He didn't want to choose Nez Perce and say, oh, whatever. And then everyone think he's biased towards, whatever with the state getting their way. But then he doesn't want to say Ada County and then everyone be complaining and saying that he gave the defense their way. He basically doesn't want anybody to have anything to say to him. So he made a very choice to move it, but he's not making the decision on where it's moving because he doesn't want to be the one to actually handle the trial himself. I think that's the part he's stepping away from. he's totally okay with not being at the trial. He doesn't want to be the judge at the trial. But I don't think he's stepping away from it until then. Yeah. Because I think the only other judge is Megan Marshall, right? From what I can understood, whenever I went to like look around for the county judges, whenever I was looking for the judge's email for the document we went over, okay, it's just him and Megan. And Megan was already part of the case, and she got replaced. So would they replace Judge with Megan again? Like, would they flip-flop that again? I don't think they would. She's still listed, though. Like, I just saw it like 2 days ago. Her name is still listed under Latah County, so I'm not really sure. Yeah, only the two. Only the two. Yeah. Yeah, he is running for sheriff. He's still running for sheriff. That's why they said that if he does get elected, they could delegate his part of the jury selection process to another person if it stayed in Latah County. But now that's not a problem because it's not staying in Latah. So, yeah. Megan Marshall? Probably. I don't know. I have no idea. But, yeah. Stepping down for trial, so he doesn't have to deal with it and can stay home. In the meantime, he still gets spoon speeding by AT. I honestly think he's getting it from both sides. I don't know. I mean, it's happened. They just mentioned how the Idaho rule has already happened like that. So I'm going to go with the way things are working in Idaho based on the Idaho rules, not based off of things not based on Idaho. And that's about as far as I'm going to go there. Yeah, so there's that. But yeah, that's it. And I guess we're going to find out what really happens. I would love some more clarification. I would love for them to send out something, a letter of clarification, if they would, but maybe we're not going to get clarification until we hear from the Supreme Court. I wonder how long it's going to take before we hear back from a Supreme Court about if they've made their mind up. How much do y'all want to bet they're just going to put it in Ada County? Because that's like the most popular choice for these high profile cases. Pretty much bet that's how it's going to go. But that's it, you guys. I am going to go watch an episode of Dexter before I go to bed. And if anything pops up tomorrow, I will let you guys know. Someone mentioned that they thought that the state actually did respond to their deadline for discovery. And they did file something, guys. They did file something, and we went over the filing, but it didn't look like it was a complete response to what the defense was asking for. I'm going to have to go back in and look at it. I mean, I just read the whole thing. Yeah, they mentioned that. Yeah. They mentioned the university. I know, I just read it. Do you think both sides haven't come up to squash the bullshit? Because of course they do, girl. I done told you already. They love this boo-boo because we dance in it. And they use the flames of this dumpster fire to hide what they're really doing. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they love it. They fuel it purposely. Oh, yeah. For sure. But yeah, that's it, guys. No one literally said anybody was making anything up. No disrespect to Jules, but the state aren't just making stuff up because they want this person. When did anybody ever say anybody was making up stuff? Literally nobody ever said anything was making up stuff. I don't know where that comment's even coming from. Transfer, yeah, it's touch DNA, which is worse. And it's definitely not 2 samples. Is this where all this is coming from? Is this the person that has y'all talking about 2 DNA samples? Because whoever this person is completely hella wrong. I mean, it's kind of like no point in explaining it to you because you just came in here saying some nonsense that wasn't even accurate. So I don't even know what's the point of even trying to like explain something to somebody who don't pay attention. So that's that. I'm going to go to bed on that note because I don't have time for all of this. You guys are awesome. Thank you for coming in here and reading this with me. And even if some of you don't agree with the way that I am interpreting it, that's the whole point of it being an interpretation. Our brains all work differently. What we really need is for the court to make some stuff clear. And I think we'll get that with Supreme Court documents. But that's it. I got to go watch Dexter and eat a popsicle. I forgot I have strawberry popsicles in the freezer. Oh, did he now? Tell Daniel I said hi. Okay, good night, you guys. I'm gonna throw my thingy up here and get out of this because this is just cray stuff, and I don't need all these cray people in here. You realize this is on subscribers only, right? So that person, that trolley person, just came in here and had to wait 5 minutes to say something. That was dumb. I'm gonna get off of here so that I don't get my blood pressure up by a bunch of dummies. You guys are great. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You'll probably see me tomorrow. I got to run my mouth about Gypsy Rose tomorrow. That's going to be happening. Good night, you guys. Crazy night. See y'all.